Our theme this month is good to great to grand. And, as I said before, we can look back over our life and we can see, the trajectory it's taken, especially if we've walked a spiritual path. I can remember not having a spiritual path, and I was a completely different person. I mean, really and truly. And our topic today is not from the minister's field. Well, I'm sorry, but I really don't like this whole month. But I chose the power of intention. Because if we're moving from good to great to grand, then setting intentions should be in our toolkit. I like the topic, but setting intentions and knowing what intentions really are can create a whole new way of looking at our lives. According to Deepak Chopra, intention is the starting point of every dream. It's the creative power that fulfills all of our needs, whether for money, relationships, spiritual awakening, or love. Everything that happens in the universe begins with intention. When I read that, I think of the scripture, because it says in Genesis, and God said, let there be, over and over and over. That's an intention. That's a spiritual intention. And if we think about that it comes from that place, and we're part of that, then this is the way we need to be looking at intentions, not as goals. And we can set big intentions that span a long time. Ruth and Dee live in Ecuador. It was a dream of Dee's to live in a foreign country for years. So when they had the opportunity to move, they took it, and they're enjoying every moment. We can look at maybe changing a profession. We know we're not in the right one, and setting an intention to find that right profession. Or we can have some small but important ones, just simply, today I express love. Or today I see, like the song, I see beauty everywhere. In his book, Dr. Dyer tells how his understanding of intention evolved over the years. And like most of us, he saw intentions as motivations to do better, to be more productive or more successful. And then he read 2 sentences in the book, The Active Side of Infinity, by Carlos Castaneda. And it changed his thinking. Quote, intent is a force that exists in the universe. When sorcerers, those who live of the source, beckon intent, it comes to them and sets up the path for attainment, which means that sorcerers always accomplish what they set out to do. And Dr. Dyer says, when I read those 2 sentences, I was stunned by the insight and clarity it gave me about the power of intention. Imagine that intention is not something you do, but rather a force that exists in the universe as an invisible field of energy. I had never considered intention in this way before reading Castaneda's words. Most of us do interchange setting goals with intention. Like, it's my intention to complete every item on my to-do list today. That isn't an intention. It's a goal. It's a goal. An intention is similar to a goal in the sense that it gives us focus on what we want to invite into our lives. However, an intention is much more open-ended, whereas a goal has to be SMART. Have you ever heard of SMART? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. That's a goal. That's a goal. But intention doesn't come from the same place as a goal. Goals really are ego-driven, and it doesn't mean it's wrong to have goals. We all have goals that we want to accomplish, but they come from our human side. the side that interacts with the world around us. But we also have a divine or infinite side. And intentions are part of that side of us. Intent is a force that exists in the universe and responds to us automatically if we trust it. So an intention is like an open invitation to co-create with the universe, and it's often focused on how we want to feel instead of what we want to achieve. So when we set an intention, we let go of the expectations of how things should turn out to be, and we trust that the universe will support us. From our ego, we know exactly what we want, and we are willing to exert the effort to make it happen. And while we can accomplish a lot, we may be missing the grand in our lives because we're holding on to the good. So the intentions are the seeds that we sow. Wayne Dyer says, our intention creates our reality. Author James Redfield said, where intention goes, energy flows. So setting intention is coming into alignment with the natural flow of the universe. I found a website called MuseFlower that has some good advice about setting intentions. So I want to share a couple of them today. The first one is focus on our feelings. A lot of times we attach certain feelings to certain actions or outcomes. I want to do this so I can feel this. For example, we may think that by doing certain things or achieving a certain goal, we will feel worthy enough or validated. But in reality, sometimes those outcomes may or may not bring such feelings. So it might be better to separate the feelings and the actions or outcomes instead of trying to control how the outcome should turn out so that we feel a certain way. It's way easier and takes much less effort to focus on the feelings we want to create in the first place. So we're shifting our focus from a thing or something specific from the SMART collection, which is not in the realm of intention, to the feelings we think this specific thing will bring us. Because feelings are in the realm of intention, and that puts us in alignment with divinity, with a higher power. In the Gospel of Matthew, we read, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and everything will be added unto you." In other words, instead of exhausting our energy trying to manifest all the little parts of our life, if we focus on living from our divinity, then everything becomes available to us. The second one is let go of the how and focus on the what. When we know the feelings we want to create, the what, we do not need to know how we will get there. The how part of the equation is up to the divine forces that are at work in our lives. When we interfere with that process, we set ourselves back. Remember the little poem? As children bring their broken toys with tears for us to mend, I brought my broken dreams to God because He is my friend. But then, instead of leaving Him in peace to work alone, I hung around and tried to help with ways that were my own. At last, I snatched them back and cried, "How can you be so slow?" "My child," He said, "what could I do? You never did let go." And that's kind of what we're experiencing here. If we hang on to how it's supposed to work, then we're completely not allowing the universe that has access to infinite potential to do its work through us. So the beauty of setting intention is to co-create with the universe. We focus on the what, and the universe will show us the how. And it's really important, as Deepak Chopra says, to leave the details to the universe. The third one that they have down is listen to your intuition. Our intuition is our inner guidance system. And since it comes from a higher, more subtle part of our consciousness, it's often ignored, unheard, or misinterpreted. Our intuition is the universe's way of speaking to us. And the more we trust the universe and know it's always at work in our favor, the more powerful our intuition becomes. So our job is to learn to really listen to it. You know, I've said before, how often do we have a nudge to do or not do something, and we brush it off only later to say, I knew I should have, or I shouldn't have done that. You know, we do that all the time. Since intuition is guidance that comes from within the soul and is directly linked to the rest of the universe, when we listen and respond to it, our lives automatically become more loving and joyful. And we do find ourselves experiencing that peace that passes all understanding. Because this is where faith and trust kick in. We don't know how everything will turn out, nor can we control every situation, outcome, or events in our lives. We just have to trust the universe, or however you want to call it, and know that the universe has our back and the universe always gives us what we need. My ex-husband, Jerry, made his transition the first part of March of this year. And a couple of weeks later, there was a big fancy envelope in the mail. John was opening the mail and he said, "What do you want me to do with this?" And I said, "Oh, that's an ad, toss it." But something in me said, "No, this is important." So I said, "Never mind, let me open it and see." And it was from TIAA Craft, informing me that I was an annuity partner and that after filling out the enclosed paperwork, I would receive a pretty substantial amount of money each month for the rest of my life. So what a time to pay attention to my intuition. That stuff almost went in the trash. This close. And I thank Jerry for doing this for me. And the last one, number 4, is watch for meaningful coincidences. And we've talked about this before, but it's so appropriate here. They're the little God giggles that tell you that the universe is listening. You know, they're fun. We don't need to act on them. In fact, sometimes we shouldn't. They're simply reminders that we're not alone, that something greater than we are is taking care of us. Meaningful coincidences are things like, I think of someone and they call, as a matter of fact, Joan is here today after how long being gone? And this past week, she came into my mind. I thought of her. It's no joke. I thought of her, and here she is. So those are the meaningful coincidences. You just have no idea how they come about, but they do. You need a quote for a talk, and I open a particular book, or I turn to something that on the internet, and it's right there. It's right there. I forget something. I didn't put something on the shopping list, and John comes home with it anyway. You know, to me, those are the little God giggles that keep the surprise and the joy, the wonder and the mystery in front of us. So for me, it's important to remember that we do live in two worlds. We use the power of our ego to maneuver in the world of duality. We use the power of intention when we are in tune with our divinity, our connection to spirit. You know, Jesus said, "I am in this world, but not of it." And I think that's what he meant. He lived from a higher consciousness so he could participate in the world of duality. But he stood outside of it, knowing that there was something greater that was at work in his life and in the life of everyone. So according to Scripture, he turned water into wine at a wedding party. I mean, that's pretty worldly. But then he also said, the kingdom of heaven is spread across the land and men do not see it. So those are those two. He saw and lived from both sides. And I think as being on a spiritual path, I truly think that that's what we're all about, learning to maneuver in both worlds and keeping what's important in front of us at all times so that we can walk in both worlds and we can be at home in both of them. Thank you. Namaste.